Every year, summit photos make Everest look like the ultimate victory. But nearly 200 climbers remain lost on the slopes, and most perish not while reaching the top, but during the descent. More than half of all deaths happen after the summit, when exhaustion and oxygen-starved brains turn tiny errors into tragedy. Why do the deadliest mistakes happen on the way down? And what hidden dangers turn triumph into catastrophe? Above 8,000 meters, the human brain begins to malfunction in ways that are both subtle and deadly. Within the first 2 hours in the death zone, simple tasks become harder, reaction times slow by up to 20%, and even experienced climbers start to fumble with carabiners or forget routine steps. As the minutes tick by, the decline accelerates. After 2 to 4 hours, half of all climbers show short-term memory loss and struggle to plan or pay attention. Verbal skills drop and decision-making becomes unreliable. By the 4-hour mark, complex thinking can drop by nearly half, and concentration errors multiply. At this altitude, oxygen saturation in the blood can fall below 70%, a level that triples the odds of making fatal mistakes. These changes are not always obvious from the outside. Climbers might seem euphoric, chatty, or even laugh at nothing at all, but inside, judgment is slipping away. Some describe it as feeling drunk or lost in a tunnel, unable to focus, unable to remember why they unclipped a rope or missed a step. The longer a climber spends above 8,000 meters, the greater the risk. Every delay, every traffic jam, every pause to wait for a fixed rope adds precious minutes to the clock, pushing minds and bodies closer to the point where small errors become irreversible. On Everest, survival is not just about strength or skill. It is a race against a silent, invisible decline that begins the moment a climber enters the death zone. Oxygen is the most precious resource in the death zone, and every climber carries it on a strict timer. Standard bottles hold enough for about 4 to 6 hours at a flow rate of 3 liters per minute. That clock starts ticking the moment a mask goes on, and it does not stop for traffic jams or delays. At these altitudes, without supplemental oxygen, blood saturation can plunge below 70%, well into the danger zone for confusion, memory loss, and loss of coordination. Even with a steady flow, the body never fully recovers. Most climbers wear pulse oximeters on their wrists, watching the numbers drop as the hours pass. When the bottle runs dry, SESPO2 can fall in minutes, and the mind unravels just as quickly. A slow line at the Hillary step or a stalled rope on the balcony can eat up an hour or more, burning through reserves and pushing the limits of survival. There is no way to refill a bottle in the death zone. Once the supply is gone, the only way out is down and fast. The margin for error shrinks to nothing, and the consequences of running out are immediate and final. On Everest, every summit push is a race against an invisible clock measured in liters, minutes, and heartbeats. At sunrise on May 21, 2024, the summit ridge of Everest was jammed with climbers, over 100 bodies stretched in single file, each clipped to the same fixed ropes. Daniel Patterson, a 40-year-old British climber, and his guide Pas Tenji Sherpa had reached the top just before dawn, but the real danger waited on the descent. As they moved down toward the Hillary step, the line ground to a halt. Every minute stuck in the death zone meant more oxygen burned, more strength lost, and less margin for error. Patterson and Pas Tenji found themselves boxed in by a wall of exhausted climbers, unable to move at the slow pace forced by the jam. With the crowd swelling and time running out, they made a decision seen on Everest every season. They unclipped from the fixed ropes and edged along the outer rim of the ridge, hoping to pass the bottleneck. The cornice beneath their feet, an overhanging shelf of wind-packed snow, had been weakened by the warmth of the morning and the constant vibration of boots. Without warning, it gave way. Both men disappeared without a sound, swept over the Kangshung face, a drop of nearly 2,000 meters. Climbers nearby froze in shock. Rescue was impossible. Helicopters cannot reach that altitude, and no rope team could risk the shattered ridge. In less than a minute, Everest had claimed 2 more lives, and the line of climbers was left staring into a void, forced to keep moving or risk joining them. Thomas Olsson arrived on Everest in 2006 with a plan that went beyond reaching the summit. An elite Swedish skier and mountaineer, Olsson set his sights on skiing the Norton Couloir, a steep and rarely attempted line that drops from the north face. After a successful summit, he and his partner Olaf Baumgartner began their descent, skis strapped on, adrenaline high but exhaustion already setting in. At roughly 8,200 meters, disaster struck. One of Olsson's skis snapped in two, leaving him stranded on an exposed face with no reliable way down. At this altitude, even the best laid plans unravel quickly. Forced to improvise, Olsson and Baumgartner attempted to rappel over a cliff using a makeshift anchor fashioned from their equipment. The anchor failed. In an instant, Olsson was gone, falling nearly 2,000 meters down the face, out of sight and beyond help. Baumgartner, now alone on the mountain, spent 3 days fighting to survive, navigating broken equipment and dwindling supplies before making it back to safety. Olsson's fatal fall was not the result of crowding or inexperience, but a stark reminder that even the most skilled climbers, armed with the best gear and years of training, are still at the mercy of Everest's unpredictable hazards. No amount of preparation can erase the risk that comes with every step in the death zone. Babu Chiri Sherpa grew up in the shadow of Everest, and by the time he reached adulthood, he had already carried loads and fixed ropes for dozens of expeditions. Yet his legacy is more than numbers. In 1999, he stood on the summit for 21 hours without bottled oxygen, a feat no one has matched. He used his earnings to build schools in his home village, hoping to give the next generation choices beyond the mountain. On May 22, 2001, during a routine acclimatization at Camp 2, Babu Chiri stepped onto a snow bridge over a hidden crevasse. The ice collapsed beneath his feet. He fell to his death at 5,900 meters, far below the death zone, but in a place where Sherpas face constant invisible risk. His loss rippled through the Khumbu, a reminder that the mountain's dangers are not reserved for foreign climbers or headline disasters. 16 years later, Weli Stek arrived in the Himalayas with a different kind of ambition. Known as the Swiss Machine, Stek had set speed records on the Eiger and dreamed of traversing Everest and Lhotse without oxygen. In May 2017, he set out alone for an acclimatization climb on Nuptse, Everest's jagged neighbor. Stek moved fast and light, trusting his skill and experience. But somewhere above Camp 2, on a clear morning, he slipped on steep, mixed terrain. He fell nearly 1,000 meters down the west ridge. Stek's body was found hours later, his plans unfinished. Even the most accomplished climbers, those who seem immune to fear and fatigue, are one mistake away from disaster. Everest does not distinguish between the hopeful and the legendary. Its dangers reach everyone who steps onto its slopes. In recent years, Everest has seen a surge in climbing permits, with Nepal issuing more than 1,000 in 2023, a record that turned the upper slopes into a narrow, high-altitude bottleneck. The short window of stable weather in May funnels hundreds of climbers onto the same ridgeline at once, each waiting for a chance to move up or down. Operators, drawn by the promise of economic gain, welcome clients from around the world, many with limited experience at extreme altitude. Proposed reforms like minimum experience requirements have been debated after deadly seasons, but as of 2024, no strict rules exist. The result is a mountain shaped as much by market demand as by the forces of nature. Every additional permit means another body in the queue, and another margin shaved from safety. Sherpas earn $5,000 per Everest season, risking their lives where rescue helicopters cannot fly above 7,800 meters. Without bottled oxygen, a climber's chance of dying is 5 times higher. Today, Everest draws more climbers than ever, despite 56% of fatalities occurring after the summit. As records fall and crowds grow, the mountain's real price is measured in risk and loss, not glory. The question remains,